relationship. Sometimes the body can adapt to a substance without resulting in a true harm. So this toxicology, to me, of course, I have a bias here, approach can provide high relevant human-based data while supporting both ethical and scientific progress. As drug development becomes more advanced and targeted, investigative toxicology is becoming increasingly important.
Hello and welcome everyone to the Master Series podcast presented by GLC Europe. I'm your host Dasni Pereira, and today we are excited to bring you another insightful discussion with experts from across pharmaceutical and life science industries. In today's episode, we'll be discussing fundamentals of toxicology, an essential area within pharmaceutical development that help ensure the safety and effectiveness of medicine throughout the life cycles. Joining us today is Professor Emanuela Corsini, who will be sharing her expertise on key principles of toxicology, regulatory expectations, and some of the modern scientific approaches shaping the field today. Professor Corsini, it's wonderful to have you here with us today, and let's dive straight into the questions. To start us off, when we talk about fundamentals of toxicology, what are the key principles people should understand?
Okay, thank you very much, and welcome, of course, everybody that will love to join the course on Fundamentals of Toxicology. So if we think of the course, at its core, toxicology is about understanding how substances interact with the body. One of the fundamental concepts is ADME, absorption, distribution, metabolism, and excretion, which explain how a substance enters, moves through, and leaves the body. Toxicology also focuses on identifying hazard, understanding the dose-response relationship, and determining which organs or system may be affected. These principles are extremely important because they help ensure substances are developed and used safely, especially within pharmaceuticals.
Yes. One thing that often comes up in toxicology is determining whether it is an actual harmful or simple biological response. How do experts make this distinction?
Oh, thanks for the question. So this is a very important part of toxicological assessment. So what scientists look at whether the observed effect actually impairs the function of an organ or a system or increase susceptibility to harm. Toxicologists, we also considered factors such as the severity of the effect, whether the effects are reversible, and whether there is a consistent dose-response relationship. Sometimes the body can adapt to a substance without resulting in a true harm. So distinguishing between adaptation and toxicity is quite essential.
We also hear technical terms like NOEL and benchmark dose quite oftenly. Could you explain these in simpler terms so everyone can understand?
Yes, also this is quite important. So in order to make a safe use of chemicals, we need to establish a sort of point of departure. The way we can measure the point of departure is either using the NOEL, which is the no observed adverse effect levels, which refer to the highest tested dose where no harmful effects are observed. Typically, we use experimental animals. A more modern way to approach the dose response is to actually calculate the benchmark dose, which is a more advanced method because it uses a mathematical modeling of the full dose response data, including the variability in the response, rather than rely on a single point as we do for the NOEL approach. The benchmark dose often provides a more precise basis for the safety evaluation and risk assessment.
GLP is another term that is widely used in toxicology and regulatory sciences. Why is it so important in this field?
Okay, so the GLP, which stands for Good Laboratory Practice, is quite important in regulatory toxicology because it is essential as a sort of quality system that ensure that the study are conducted consistently, properly documented and fully traceable. This is very important for data sharing and acceptance among different regulatory agencies among different countries. For regulatory agencies such as the FDA in the US or the EMA in Europe, reliable data is absolutely critical. So if a study is conducted under a GLP, this helps to guarantee the integrity and credibility of toxicology studies submitted for regulatory review.
Toxicology seems to play a role far beyond just early research. How involved is it throughout the drug development process?
Okay, so toxicology, to me, of course, I have a bias here. Toxicology is relevant for the all phases in drug development, including once the drug is on the market with the pharmacovigilance, which is the last, I would say, aspect of toxicology. So, in drug developmental toxicology, as I said, is involved throughout the entire life cycle of a medicine. In the preclinical stage, toxicology helps determine safe starting dose for human trials. During clinical developmental, it supports ongoing safety monitoring, and even after a product reaches the market, toxicology continues through pharmacovigilance activities to monitor long-term safety in the general population that were not foreseen during the preclinical phase.
There's also growing discussions about ethical and alternative testing approaches, especially the concept of 3 Rs. Could you tell us more about it, please?
Oh, absolutely. So the vision of toxicology in the 21st century is phasing out the use of animals. These apply to chemicals in general, but also in the medicinal field. But first of all, what are the 3 Rs? The 3 Rs stand for replacement, reduction, and refinement of animal testing, because we still rely quite a lot on animals. So the idea and the vision is to replace animal studies whenever scientifically possible, to reduce the number of animal use, guarantee, of course, the quality of the results, and refine the testing methods to minimize animal suffering from the experimentation. This framework has driven significantly innovation in alternative testing approaches over recent years.
Which I think is a very good start to it. That leads nicely into new approaches, methodologies, or NAMs. How are these changing the field of toxicology?
Yeah, as I mentioned, very in the vision of phasing out the use of animals, the introduction of the concept of new approach methodology provide actually the fundamental approach really to be able to replace the use of animals. When we think of new approach methodologies, there are different definitions, slightly different among the different countries and regulatory agencies, but generally speaking, the new approach methodologies include technology such as the cell-based system, tissue, microphysiological models, computer simulation that can predict the toxicological outcome without relying only on traditional animal testing. For examples, the use of reconstituted human skin models are widely accepted and used to assess skin irritation, skin sensitization in cosmetic safety testing. This approach can provide high relevant human-based data while supporting both ethical and scientific progress.
Another interesting concept is adverse outcome pathways, or AOPs. What exactly are they?
Of course, this is once again related to the vision of toxicology and the use of NAMs. Now, the definition, so in modern toxicology, if we can describe any adverse effect from the first interaction with the chemical to the targets that lead to the apical adverse outcome, which has been traditionally measured in animals, if we understand this process, then we can predict the outcome, but looking for the molecular initiating event and all the key events that we know are necessary to bring to the apical endpoints. So, in a more general sense, the AOP are frameworks that help scientists map the sequence of events from the first interaction of the chemical at the molecular level all the way to the final adverse health effect. The value of the AOP is because they improve our understanding of how toxicity occurs and help strengthen the predictive toxicology and alternative testing strategy.
Yes. Before we wrap up, could you please explain what investigative toxicology involves?
Investigative toxicology is an important way that leads animals to humans, because we need to understand the underlying mechanism. So in a sense, investigative toxicology focuses on understanding why certain toxic effects occur by using molecular, cellular, and genetic approaches. So investigative toxicology help researchers troubleshoot safety concern to identify biomarkers that can be translated to the clinic and better connect preclinical findings with the clinical outcomes in humans. As drug development becomes more advanced and targeted, investigative toxicology is becoming increasingly important.
Thank you, Professor. And thank you so much for joining us today and sharing such valuable, insightful insight into fundamentals of toxicology. It's been truly an informative discussion. And thank you, everyone, for listening to the episode of Master Series podcast presented by GLC. And we hope today's conversation gave you deeper understanding on roles of toxicology that plays in the pharmaceutical development and modern safety science. Stay connected with us for more expert discussions, industry insight, and upcoming masterclass sessions. Until next time, this is Dasani Pereira signing off from the Master Series podcast. Thank you for listening. And thank you again, Professor.
Thank you.